Hello everyone and welcome to my first video. Um, we are going to go over page 212 from your big textbook. We will be covering chapter 7.2 and it's writing two-step inequalities. You can write two-step inequalities to represent real-world problems by translating the words of the problems into numbers, variables, and operations. What does that mean? Well, let's look at some examples that we have. A mountain climbing team is camped at an altitude of 18,460 feet on Mount Everest. The team wants to reach the 29,029-foot summit within 6 days. Write an inequality to find the average number of feet per day the team must climb to accomplish its objective. So if we were to look at this problem, we want to try and figure out what is it exactly they are asking us to do. Well, first and foremost, we want to be able to take the information that we have in the problem and break it down to see how we can come up with an inequality. So let's read this one more time. A mountain climbing team is camped at an altitude of 18,460 feet on Mount Everest. The team wants to reach the 29,029-foot summit within 6 days. So this is some important information. And now it's saying write an inequality to find the average number of feet per day the team must climb to accomplish its objective. So the point is we need to know how many feet per day are they going to be needing to climb in order for them to reach their destination within the time allotted. So there are 3 steps listed here. So let's go through them and see what exactly we need to do every single time. So step 1 is telling us to identify what you are trying to find. So after reading it twice, we were able to identify that we need to write an inequality to find the average number of feet per day. We need to find the average number of feet per day. So we need to create a variable to represent that. So this will be the variable in the inequality and let t represent the average altitude the team must gain each day. Again, we can call this x, we can call it y, we can call it any variable we want to. As long as we know this letter will represent the average altitude the team must gain every day. Identify important information in the problem is a second step. We also did that early on, but we are going to identify important information in the problem every single time, and then we are going to write it down. So we need to write down everything we could use in our inequality, and our starting altitude is one of these important pieces of information. So as I had underlined it, a mountain climbing team is camped at an altitude. They are currently at 18,460 feet. So that is my starting point. The starting altitude is 18,460 feet. They want to get to 29,029 feet. That's where they want to reach. So that's another important piece of information. And then the number of days times the altitude gained. So basically, since we named d to representing the average altitude the team must gain every day, and they will be going for 6 days, if we multiply these two, we'll get 6 times d right here. Use words in the problem to tie the information together and write an inequality. And that's my step 3. Use that information, the words in the problem, and everything I just jotted down to um, tie them together and write the inequality. Well, they started at 18,460 feet of altitude, and then the number of days times the altitude gained each day. That will give me how much more they will be adding to their altitude. And the inequality is greater than or equal to 29,029 feet. It needs to reach more than 29,029 feet. Okay, so at least this number needs to be reached. So let's look at another example. So with your turn, I need you guys to try and think about this in the same manner we thought about the previous example. So this is where you pause the video for a minute or two. Try and come up with an inequality for this problem. but let's read it together. The 45 members of the Glee Club are trying to raise $6,000 so they can compete in the state championship. They already have $1,240. What inequality can you write to find the amount each member must trace on average to meet the goal? So I'm going to read this one more time with you guys, and then um, I'll need you to pause the video, think about this, and then try and come up with an inequality. The 45 members of the Glee Club are trying to raise $6,000. So there are 45 members, important information is right here, and they need to raise $6,000 so they can compete in the state championship. They already have $1,240. They already have this much out of the 6,000. What inequality can you write to find the amount each member must raise on average to meet the goal? Go ahead and pause the video, think about this, and once you have an answer written down, you can come back and compare to what the video says. Okay, so if we were to follow the same steps that we followed in the previous example, this one, step one says identify what you're trying to find. So we are going to identify what we are trying to find. We want to find the amount each member must raise. How much is each of these members going to raise? So let's go ahead and call that X, and let me change the color here. So we are going to call X the amount that each member must raise. And I'll go ahead and underline it with red. So let's go back and see what the next step needs to be. Identify important information in the problem that you can use to write an inequality. We kind of already did that by annotating the important pieces when we read it the second time. So the 45 members need to raise 6,000, and they have already raised $1,240. What more is each of them going to need to raise in order for them to reach their goal of $6,000? Okay, and then step three, we are going to use that information and the words from the problem and then tie it up to an inequality. So we started at this amount, and then each of them is going to raise this much to get to their maximum amount. Let's go ahead and break it down. They started with $1,240. They're going to make X amount times the 45 members. Each of them is going to make an X amount. So the total is going to be 45 times X. And that needs to reach more than or equal to $6,000. They need to raise at least $6,000. So that's the goal of this inequality. And here it is. That's my inequality. Well done. We can solve for it, but this problem is not asking us to solve for it. It is saying, what inequality can you write to find what X is? This is the inequality that will help us what X needs to be in order for them to reach their goal of $6,000. Let's go ahead and look at the next problem, and the same way I will read the problem twice. We will annotate the second time. I need you guys to pause the video afterwards and then try and solve it, get the inequality, and come back and keep playing the video. All right, Ella has $40 to spend at the state fair. Admission is $6 and each ride costs $3. Write an inequality to find the greatest number of rides she can go on. Let's go ahead and read it the second time and annotate it. Ella has $40 to spend. She's able to spend up to $40. Admission is $6, and that will happen one time. And each ride costs $3. Every time she goes on a ride, she's going to spend $3. The problem is asking us to write an inequality to find the greatest number of rides she can go on. How many rides can she go on? Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video. Think about this. Try and write an inequality down and come back and play the video again to work with us on this solution. All right, so let's look at the example problem again. It's saying to go ahead and identify what you are trying to find. So we are going to identify what we are trying to find. We also underlined that when we annotated. We need to find the greatest number of rides she can go on. We can call this X, we can call it R for rides, we can call it Y, anything you want to as long as we know. We call the greatest number of rides she can go on this variable. So I'm going to go ahead and call it R. Now, I identified what I am looking for, and that was my step one. Next, step two, we need to identify important information in the problem. We also covered that by annotating. Important information includes that Ella has $40 that she can spend. She does not have 41, not 42. She has exactly $40 to spend, so we have to stick to that. And she's going to want to spend it at the fair. Admission to enter to the fair is $6. That's also important information. She needs to pay that $6 one time. And each ride, every single ride she goes on, is going to cost her $3. So we need to write the inequality to find R. Again, that was step two, and we identified the important information. Now it says use words in the problem to tie the information together and write the inequality. Step three says basically build your inequality. Let's go ahead and go to the building part. She needs to pay $6 first for admission, and she will have to pay $3 for every ride. So every time she goes on a ride, she pays $3. And then this total amount has to stay under or equal to $40 because that's the most you could spend. And here's our inequality. Um, Now we will go to page 213. So let's go ahead and pause the video. Let's go ahead and end this video on this page. I'll create a second video for page 213 and on. Here we go.